The public lecture that I enjoyed attending most this semester was the Tech Talks lecture that was actually a series of short presentations that begged the question, why does science matter for society? Given the fact that we as students of Georgia Tech are constantly surrounded by and encouraged to appreciate the value of science to the everyday function of our civilization, it is no surprise that we don't usually take the time to fully unpack this question. As the introduction stated, science is our candle in the darkness. The point was made that it is our responsibility as those who understand how integral it is to a functional society to communicate through language, but more importantly through a form of storytelling that stands in for a fully detailed explanation of a subject already understood by the two having the conversation. The introduction gave 3 reasons for this need for communicating the stories of science. Firstly, it is pleasurable. Secondly, it's a step on the path to progress. And lastly, out of duty to show society what science they depend on, pay for, enjoy, etc. He went on to say that he had a colleague in the field of physics who always knew he wanted to be a physicist, but for some reason studied the classics during his time as an undergrad, i.e. Latin, Greek, ancient history, in order to be able to convey, argue, and tell scientific stories. I enjoyed the introduction and got my gears turning for what was to come from the multiple speakers coming up. The first talk was by Zev Greenberg and began by breaking down the root words behind what we casually refer to as science. It comes from the Latin sciens, meaning to have knowledge, as well as scire, meaning to know. I liked how he addressed that science isn't just something we do, it is a fundamental characteristic of a human being. Asking the question of what is and what could be are some of the most ancient and most human thoughts of all, in my opinion, and they are at the heart of what we call science. The second speaker's name was Natalie Schloeder. I enjoyed the point she made regarding the ways in which we as natural scientists use deductive reasoning and the facts that we have at present to make conclusions that may or may not be later proven to be false due to the deficiency in quality facts. Her analogy to the nature of the evolution of scientific fact was a childish idea of hers, that thinking about babies makes one pregnant. The conclusion was reached based on the information she was privy to at that point in time. The next speaker focused on something called biomania and referenced hexagonal honeycomb structure in modern architecture, which I found interesting as a architecture major, because I've heard of this project and I have been told that the honeycomb structure is surprisingly efficient at transferring loads, and it's actually pretty aesthetically pleasing to the eye, so I enjoyed that he mentioned that. And the next speaker was Maddie Al-Husseini, who said that engineering is the gap between science and society. I agreed with her in her statement that engineering makes life easier. The Q-tip, whether or not we take it for granted on a daily basis, is an engineering marvel, much like a fork or a refrigerator for a beer, as one of the speakers made the point. I especially liked the speech by Tessa Solomon Lane, who is a neuroscience grad student, and her theme for her presentation was why society needs the science it thinks it doesn't need. So she made the point, starting off, that society as we know it is a product of science rather than the factory that produces science, which was kind of a different perspective than I think most of us take on the subject, being at an engineering school and constantly surrounded by those contributing to their respective fields of science. But she went on to say that the blue-banded goby can change sex and is highly adaptive. So it's in a highly social organism. It operates within a patriarchy, as well as being able to switch genders from a female to a male. But the general society is a patriarchy with one male and multiple females. So, lastly, I would say the most lengthy lecture and probably the most in-depth due to his experience in the field was the professor. I forget his name, but he is a professor here at Georgia Tech studying, or he's a professor of microelectronics and nanotechnology, I believe. And so he really stressed that it's important for us to wrap our brains around the many miracles of the microelectronics revolution. Scientists and engineers create technology. Technology is reshaping us and our planet, and as its creators, we are the ones that are best positioned to drive its conversation on how technology is optimally utilized to benefit global society. And so he really went into detail with microelectronics, specifically transistors, which I really didn't know that much about until his lecture, but it was actually very eye-opening, and it got me interested in the nanotechnology that I take for granted every day in my laptop and cell phone and various other, my calculator. So basically his challenge was to take a stand and think about the impact and opposition that we as scientists can face. So cultivate the skill, and as I think he said it was Xerox posted on the entrance to their building, "We predict the future by inventing it," which I thought was inspirational. Thank you for watching. This has been Norwood Dennis's public lecture series extra credit video. Thank you.